Alright, class, this is going to be taking place for our secondary data analysis lecture. I figured I'd just record it on a video or two to mimic the PowerPoint I've given to you guys. This is so we don't have to come in Saturday. So, this is our shortest and perhaps most straightforward lecture. It's about secondary data analysis. You guys already know a lot of these principles. Just from learning from Dr. Shalaha and I. But we're going to go a little bit more into depth about some of the technicalities of secondary data analysis, all right? So I have the PowerPoint I gave you pulled up, and we'll just walk through it slide by slide. So in general, really secondary data analysis is kind of retooling your mind about understanding where the data comes from, preparing it. We will go a little bit into sampling and measurement design, how we approach different analytic techniques, and we're going to go through an example and just show you it can be quite a bit more complicated than you think, even though it's a relatively simple concept. So, secondary data analysis. It's a method of using pre-existing data in different ways or to answer a completely different research question that's different than what was intended by those who originally collected the data. The most common source of secondary data or previously collected data used in secondary data analysis are meant for a completely new analysis. They're usually really not meant for replication of the data, because that just wouldn't make sense, right? Unless you think the original investigators are wrong and you're trying to disprove their findings if it seems shady, but that's a different story. A lot of secondary data comes from social science surveys, big data. NIH is starting to ask for data repositories, or the government agencies. They huge, massive data sets with tons of different surveys and research methods built into them, can be uploaded online. We're actually going to go through one of those today. Secondary data analysis, it's also possible to reanalyze data, like I said, to replicate experimental study findings, and it's also very possible to do a secondary data analysis with qualitative methods. If you have a different purpose in your qualitative report, you can go ahead and analyze those findings. And this bottom bullet's pretty important. So even if you're reanalyzing data from a researcher that he or she collected previously, this qualifies as secondary data because it's not the first time, right? So what constitutes, there we go, fixed. Constitutes secondary data. It comes from many sources, like I said. Government-funded data sets, which is kind of the focus of this presentation, university college records, lots of school systems, journal supplements will have some, textbooks, authors' websites. Look at all these stinking errors I made. And there are millions of different subjects, maybe not millions, certainly in the thousands. Different subject areas that you can find stuff in. Alright, so here's good examples of secondary data. I went around to each of the agencies that I thought each of you all might be interested in or looking at your dissertation for, or your future topics of interest. So I tried to find links to the direct data website as close as possible that where you can go and find data. So I had the TINAs in mind here with NHLVI, NIMH, NICHD, Institutes of Aging is kind of everyone, Catherine here with NCI. And all of you can search on your own and see if there's anything that might tailor to your individual needs, but this is a really good way to get data if you don't want to actually do a study. And people make whole careers off of this. So there's a lot of advantages to secondary data analysis. It saves time and money because you don't have to collect anything. It's already been designed, all the planning has gone into it. You have access to international and cross historical data that would otherwise take several years and millions of dollars to collect. And it's right there just for a data acquisition form. It's ideal for use in classroom examples, semester projects, master's theses, dissertations, and supplemental studies. Hint, 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 hint. And data is more than likely quite high quality. These are funded by government agencies, usually, that have massive samples and are more representative of the target population, which directly translates to better external validity. And there's usually a oversampling of low prevalence groups and behaviors, which allows us to increase our statistical precision. So if there's a greater amount of people that are usually not represented in studies, we can do secondary data analysis and draw greater conclusions because the hard work's already been done for us. Another advantage is there's usually thousands of variables in some of these data sets. So that might be a disadvantage, but at the same time, you can explore a whole lot. Available data sets often include many more measures and cases and reflect a very much more rigorous research procedure than you or I would have the time or resources to do in a new investigation. Also, like I said, all the groundwork's been done for us, right? Creating, testing, validating, writing the procedures, going through the approval, collecting the data, synthesizing the data, putting it in the data sets. That's already been done for us. And the biggest benefit to people like you and me is that we can use all these other people's hard work to analyze data for new research questions that they didn't consider. And that's at the point in some of these, but we're allowed to write proposals and studies and manuscripts off this data. It's quite nice. Well, with that comes disadvantages, right? So the study design and data collection have already been completed. So if they used a double-blind RCT and and you're looking at something where you need a little bit more leeway in your research question, the data may not facilitate that research question. Information regarding study design and data collection procedures may be scarce. It just might be a data set. You'll have no clue how they collected it, when they collected it. The procedures can, by and large, be blank, which really makes your life a lot harder in the prep work. The data may also potentially lack depth. So the greater the breadth, the harder it is to measure any one construct in depth. Constructs may be operationally defined by a single survey item or a subset of test items, which really leads into reliability and validity concerns, which we've, at this point, by the time you're watching this, we've already gone into this in our previous 2 days of classes. Post hoc attempts to construct measurement models may be unsuccessful. If you guys don't know what measurement models are, you're going to learn a whole lot about it during our November meetings when we talk about confirmatory factor analysis and structural equation modeling. Those are measurement models. Certain fields or departments or experimental programs may place less value on secondary data analysis. So, for example, NHLBI is the leader, really, in my opinion, for secondary data analysis. They have grants for that. Whereas NINR, our own nursing research, does not have a data repository. So there's a drawback. If you're really interested in nursing-based research, well, good luck getting secondary data. But if you're very interested in the, pathophysiological mechanism of heart failure, complex, whatever, NHLBI will likely have some data to support you. Furthermore, secondary data analysis may require knowledge of survey statistics methods, which is usually not covered in what we're teaching you. The good news is we're teaching you a whole lot. You should be able to conduct many sophisticated and complex secondary data analysis just based off of our class. Let's see, we're at 10 minutes here. So I'm going to try to put this on YouTube. I don't know exactly how well it's going to work. I've done it before, but it was like a year ago, 10 minutes. Well, we'll see. I'm going to keep talking. Disadvantages continued. We, as in the researchers, has the inability to design data collection methods that are best suited to answer our research questions. So if you're interested in, like we just came from our linear mixed modeling modules, if you're looking in the for the change of x over time when the secondary data analysis only has 2 time points, well, what are you going to do? A t-test? It's really all not that rigorous. You can't do even repeated measures ANOVA. You can't do any of your linear, longitudinal linear modeling. So that's a disadvantage. If you're looking to compare between group A and group B, but they only collect data on group A, you're out of luck. We cannot test and refine the methods used on the basis of preliminary feedback from the population or the process to be studied. So a lot of times in these big studies, and you'll find out the more studies you do over time, is you have what you think is the perfect plan. And then you actually go to collect the data and you find out it's not working. And then you have to go and send an amendment, or you have to change your survey results. And so you might have already had data collected under method 1, and then you had to change to method 2. And in some of these studies, they're still collecting data, and they're on their like 5th decade. Of course, they've changed what they've asked, right? So we can't really test or refine those methods. We're the subject of what they give us. If the primary study was not designed to measure a concept adequately that is critical to the secondary analyst hypothesis, aka you, the study may have to be abandoned until a more adequate source of data can be found. That's just nature of the beast. If you have a question and it's a burning question and the data isn't there to support it, well, once again, we're out of luck. Even though these data sets are usually massive and have so many variables, and it's usually very well recorded, overall, you always have to double check data quality. It's always a concern. Even if it's collected by the government, who we normally trust. You have to screen your data. And we're going to go through that here. So, I'm going to stop this part of the video here.